Recording in progress. Yeah.
You doing, my man?
I'm good, brother. There we go. Mic'd up, ready to go. How are you?
Good, good, good.
Nice. Thanks for sending the stuff.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no problem. I give you lots of time. What, 20 minutes to look at it?
That was 15 minutes too much. 5 minutes is good.
An eternity. An eternity. Everyone, we're just letting people are getting on right now, so we'll get started at 8:05. 8:05. Just allowing people to sign on. So we'll get started in about 5 minutes at 8:05. Just allowing the people to sign in online. We'll get started in 4 minutes at 8:05. People continue to come in online, so we're gonna get started in 3 minutes at 8:05. 8:05, we'll get started. Great. People keep on coming in online. I'm gonna give it another 2 minutes, so we'll start at 8:05, 8:05. Get started in 1 minute at 8:05. Thanks everyone for patiently waiting. We'll get started in 1 minute, 8:05. Okay, let's get started, everyone. Thanks so much for coming online. Myself, my name's Alex Wilson. We have my business partner, Niesh, on here as well. And we're going to discuss how to build a real estate portfolio to pass on to the next generation. So first of all, some background info on me for people that don't know. I'm the owner and broker record of Remax Wealth Builders Real Estate. Been selling real estate in Toronto for over 15 years. I was the #1 Remax agent in Canada for individual transactions. Last year in 2022, number 11 agent worldwide. Been inducted in the Remax Hall of Fame, awarded the Remax Lifetime Achievement Award at 35, awarded the Remax Circle Legends Award at 40, and I am currently 41. But none of that is relevant to you. What is relevant to you is I've turned a $39,300 deposit into a $17 million real estate portfolio, which are all my investment properties, which is 15 condos, a High Park triplex, and an apartment building in Hamilton. And here's a portfolio. Now, a lot of you, if you've been in my webinars before, you've seen this before, but I'm going to go into deeper. I'm going to show you how to start with one and get to turn one into three. Then I'm going to show you how to pass this also along to the next generation. There's some cool stuff with that. So, but why I show this is I want to show people, and this again specifically with the topic of passing this on to you. You start a real estate portfolio, you build it up, and then you want to pass it on to the next generation. Why that's everything I do. I like owning real estate over a long period of time. So the current market value of the portfolio just over $17 million, and in 30 years the portfolio will be worth $42 million. And why that's significant and why I use specifically 30 years, because I just try to keep everything simple for everyone, is that in 30 years all the properties will be paid off. And why in 30 years will they all be paid off? Well, you have 30-year amortization periods on your mortgage. So if you got a mortgage on the property in 30 years, that property will be paid off. Now, the difference is your principal residence, the house you live in, that's you paying the mortgage every month. But when you have an investment property, you're getting rent on that property. And that rent, you use that to cover off the expenses on the property, being the property tax, maintenance fee for a condo, and then also covering off the mortgage. And that's the great thing. And if you take real estate and you own it over a long period of time, you can build significant wealth, because over those 30 years, those tenants that have lived in your property have paid off the mortgage for you. So when we look at the $17 million that my portfolio is worth now, all these properties have mortgages on it. So I do not have $17 million right now, but in 32 years, I will have $42 million. And someone else has done that, and that's been the tenant in the property, and they've helped me build that. And all I'm doing here is I'm taking the current values of the properties, and in the 30 years at a 3% compound annual growth rate, a very conservative number. A lot of people like to use 5 or higher. I just like to do 3% conservative number. In 30 years, this portfolio will be worth $42 million, and that's paid off. And what does that mean? Well, it means I'm going to Niesh next. So we'll talk about that more. Niesh, why don't you introduce yourself?
I think that was the smoothest transition we've had in any of our meetings before. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Niesh. I've been a licensed realtor since 2020. Prior to that, I was in a corporate setting. Unfortunately, the industry that I was in was significantly impacted by COVID-19. I know many people and their jobs were impacted by that, but it was essentially a scenario where what I expected would happen throughout my career, but also, as I came closer to my retirement years, all that changed. And I think many of you have probably experienced similar things where you had a level of trust and, a certain plan in place for your retirement years, pensions being probably a big component of that. But if you have a company that is no longer in business, then whatever contributions you might be making to the pension fund that maybe your company matched, maybe they didn't, all that goes. So you're kind of only now relying on the Canada Pension Plan, which we all know is not significant enough. And unfortunately, there's just, our population is aging. And a very cool fact, just did a bit of research, and before I go into the next bullet point, but I think it's important that I address this. Canada's population is over 39 million. So let's say 40 million. 27% of that population is 60 or older. So that's 11 million plus people are over the age of 60. What that means is as these individuals get, retired, as they retire, they're going to be utilizing the pension fund. Will there be any left for us when we're that age? We don't know. Right? We just don't really know what you're going to be dealing with. So one of the things that I did as I transitioned into real estate, I learned through Alex and our other business partner, Kyle, how real estate could actually work for you, and it can help you save up for your retirement in a way that I didn't consider real estate having that opportunity to do. So it was, it was a very eye-opening experience. And as a result, I kind of went gung-ho into the sales component of real estate. Had a successful year last year. Sold, over 100 properties in Calgary, along with my resale business. And I was able to take the existing real estate portfolio that I had, and I was able to quadruple that in less than 2 years. And similar to Alex, I'll show the slide here, Alex, if you can skim over it. There we go. So we started off with initial property back in 2006, once my wife and I got married. Our next property was in 2017. Those were all Toronto-based properties. But then the rest of the properties that I bought, now looking at this through the lens of an investor and someone that was looking to secure his family's financial future, the rest of the properties were purchased in a different province. So we'll get into all of this. And my current portfolio value is just over 5 million. And then over the next 30 years, that'll probably grow to, just under 2.5 million, factoring in a very conservative 3% year-over-year appreciation model.
And this is where the next slide comes in. And people may be looking at it, Alex, 17 million, or Niesh, what are we at here again? You're just over 5 million. That people may think those are big numbers. So I just broke this down. So we're thinking in the idea of a pension fund. You're building a pension fund. So part of this is when you're buying real estate and you're holding it for the long term. You can secure your own financial freedom by owning these properties over 30 years. But then also the second part is then you can pass that financial freedom to your next generation. Now, before I describe this slide, Niesh, did your parents give you real estate?
Nope.
No, neither did mine. Neither did mine. I got no real estate from my family. No, there was no real estate given to me. There was no real estate given to Niesh. So, and a lot of our clients are new Canadians, and that's their goal is to they're coming to Canada, set up a new life, to set up not just they don't move to Canada for themselves. They're making the move to Canada for their family so that their family can have a bigger and brighter future. So if you set up your real estate portfolio, then what you can do is, if you think of that long term, if you think over multiple generations, then over a 50-year period, over a 100-year period, now your family, your future generations are established and they have that financial freedom, and they're set up in the country, and then they can really make moves that they want to make. And we have clients that think that far in advance. So, but first off, showing people, if you have just $1 million real estate portfolio right now, and $1 million real estate portfolio, could be 2 condos in Toronto or a condo and a half in Toronto. It could be even just, if we go just to my triplex in Toronto is over 2. Just that one asset. If you go in Toronto, in Calgary, $1 million real estate portfolio, that's like 3 condos or 2 townhomes in Calgary. But again, if you take that 30-year approach, so if you have a $1 million real estate portfolio, and then when I make my inflation adjustments, because my background is in economics and I can make those adjustments, that $1 million portfolio would be worth just over 2.4 million in 30 years. And I adjust that for inflation so I can describe it with today's purchasing power. You can pay yourself on a 5% rate of return $70,000 a year. So if you own $1 million in real estate today, you can pay yourself a pension of $70,000 a year in 30 years. Now, recommended yearly payout. I get to talk about this more on this presentation. Usually I kind of gloss over it, but recommended yearly payout. This here is, so if I have this $1 million real estate portfolio and I do want to pass this portfolio off to the next generation, in 30 years, you should only pay yourself $42,000 a year, which is a 3% rate of return on the portfolio. The reason for that is I'm keeping 2% in the portfolio so that now it's inflation protected. So now I'm protected against inflation. So what have I done? I've built myself a pension fund. So I don't need to rely on someone taking care of me in the future, whether it's a government, whether it's a company, whether I'm relying on an inheritance, whether I need to sell my principal residence. I'm relying on the house, the roof over my head. I'm going to sell that, and that's going to fund my retirement. Well, if you sell that when you're 70, what happens when you live to your 120, which you probably will with new healthcare advancements? Where are you going to live? That's going to be an issue. So if you make the moves today, you can really set yourselves up for the future. Okay, so going back to this, you have the $1 million real estate portfolio. You can pay yourself 42. You've created a pension fund that can pay yourself $42,000 a year in 30 years, and you've also created an asset that can then be passed on to the next generation. Now, if you have a $2 million portfolio, you can pay yourself $84,000. And again, that's with today's purchasing power. It's adjusted for today. That $84,000 actually paid will be higher, but it gives you an idea in regards to that's the equivalent of your today's purchasing power. $3 million real estate portfolio, you can pay yourself $126,000. $4 million, $168,000. And again, with these portfolio values, you have mortgages on these. So this is not, you don't have $4 million today. You have mortgages on all that. And then in 30 years, a tenant has paid that off. So what I want to show you now is how you get to a $4 million or a $10 million or $17 million real estate portfolio. So I'm going to show you how you turn one condo into 3 condos. And this is what I've done. This is what I did. I bought my first condo, my first investment condo in December 2012, and I bought it in Toronto. It's in the Carnaby building at Queen and Gladstone in Queen West in Toronto. So I bought that for $262,000 in 2012. In 2016, now I bought this pre-construction. So that's that in that first slide where I say turn a deposit from $39,300 into a $17 million portfolio. This is the path. This is what I did. If you do this, you can do what I did. Again, you don't need to go all the way to $17 million. That's a lot. But if you do it even in the smaller scale, which I showed in the last slide, you can set yourself up very well and set your family up for the future. So current market value of that condo in 2016 was $500,000. The mortgage on the condo at that time was $202,000, and the market rent was $2,100. So what did I do? I refinanced the condo. So I went to the bank. I said, I'd like to refinance. They said, okay, Mr. Wilson. And they gave me 80% loan to value. So that means I had $400,000 of refinancing available. Now, so they put a new mortgage of $400,000. The existing mortgage was $202,000. So that gave me just under $200,000 of tax-free investment dollars that I could reinvest back in the market. Why is it tax-free? I didn't sell the property. And I'm taking the money and I'm buying more investment properties. Therefore, there is no tax consequence. Therefore, I can take this money and reinvest it back in the market, which I did. And what did I do? I bought 2 more condos. So I bought one at 75 the Esplanade, which today, if you were to look it up, is 2-way church. And I bought one in Canary Block. One bought in 2016, one I bought in 2017. Purchase price on those were $380 and $578. And the current market value on those is $635,000 and $800,000. So I turned that one condo into 2 more condos. And the current appreciation on those 2 condos from that refinance is $475,000. And then the fact I didn't sell the other one, I kept it, I refinanced, that's gone up in value. That's worth $635,000 as well. So the total current appreciation on all 3 condos is $800,000, just over $800,000. And what have I done? I've also refinanced those other condos and continue to grow and buy things and grow and buy things and grow and buy things. So if you take that approach, that's how you're able to grow the real estate portfolio. So, and I've been doing these presentations for a while. You get to certain phases in your life. So when I was rapidly building my portfolio, I was in my appreciation years. So I was in my late 20s, early 30s, and I didn't care about cash flow. I cared about appreciation. Now, cash flow is still relevant because cash flow is what pays the mortgage, pays the maintenance fees, pays the property tax. So I like to run my portfolios at a neutral cash flow level, but I was in my appreciation years. Because what I wanted to set up myself with is, it's nice to have one property going up in value. But imagine having 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 over that time period going up in value at that time. I'd be far better off doing that. So I used time as the true currency to grow my portfolio, because I knew that if I had 5 condos going up in value versus 1 condo going up in value, it would be much better off in 30 years. So I sacrificed the cash flow, knowing that owning 1 condo would not make me wealthy and would not impact me significantly in 30 years, but owning 5 would. And by building that and refinancing, that's how I've been able to do it. Now, what's really cool is, why didn't I not put that in here? I want to show you guys something. So just give me a second. I want to stop my share, because what I want to show you is that I've done this presentation before, and I did it a number of years ago. So I want to show you the original presentation from 2018. And here it is. So you can see on my screen here what this was a slide that I had. What happens over 5 years? I was turning 1 condo into 3 condos and showing the values and predicting what the values would be. Now, 75 the Esplanade in 2018, I predicted the value of the condo would be 616,000. It's currently worth 635,000, so just slightly more than 616. The Canary Block, not worth as much as I predicted. I predicted it'd be worth 957,000. It's only worth 800 today. But the original Carnaby condo, that's right in line. It's worth 635 today, and in 2018, I predicted it would be worth $638,000. And I thought that was really cool, because I'm at that 5-year mark right now and able to go back to material that I did in 2018 and showcase, hey guys, this works. I did it. And I said it would happen 5 years ago. And you can go back and watch videos that I did on YouTube that shows this as well. But I wanted to pull up this original slide from what I did in 2018, showing people that, hey, these numbers work. And if you look at real estate over a long period of time, you can do that too. Don't worry about what the things going up and down, because those are only short-term effects. But if you look at over a long period, this will all work. Okay, so I'm going to go back to our proper presentation. Okay, so now.
And sorry, Alex, just jumping in very quickly. Yeah. There are a couple of questions just to let everyone know we will get to those questions.
Yes.
We're not just ignoring you.
Yes. Well, no, we're not. Yes. Ask all your questions. They're in the Q&A box. We love questions. We do truly love questions, and we will answer all your questions in the Q&A portion after. Please ask your questions. And I do have a special speaker coming on next, and they're going to help us describe how you pass this portfolio on to the next generation. So when I was doing this presentation, and I always love coming up with new concepts or applying new concepts to my portfolio, this was something that was completely new to me. Now, the original purchase price of my entire portfolio, so that first slide that I show you, let's go all the way back here. There it is right here. So the original purchase price on this, so current market value is 17, and so I paid 14 million for everything. The 30-year value, which I predicted, be $42 million. Okay, so what if I die in 30 years? So this is relevant because people want to pass that portfolio, that their real estate on to the next generation. So what if I die? Well, there's a tax liability when I die. And Niesh, when we were talking this afternoon, you're like, oh, I didn't know Canada had an estate tax. Canada doesn't really have an estate tax, but when you die, you're passing the asset on, and that's a deemed disposition. So at that time, there is a tax liability. It's not an estate tax, it's just the assets being sold. In essence, it's being sold because it's transferring ownership. And there's a tax liability on that. So yeah, that's at the time you have to pay taxes. So if I were to die, what will my tax liability be? Well, if I take 42 million less 14 million, that means I have a nearly $28 million capital gain. So what are my taxes owing on that? 28 million divided by 2, multiplied by 53% tax rate. That means I'd owe CRA, or not me, I'm dead. My family would owe CRA 7.4 nearly $7.45 million. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that about roughly, when I factor in the selling costs, because there's selling costs and everything involved, about 25% of my estate, my real estate estate, would have to be sold in order to pay off that tax liability. So if I want to pass on, if I want to pass on these real estate assets, this financial freedom that I created for myself, and then pass it on and create financial freedom for the next generation, 25% of that is going to go away, and they're going to have to select properties to sell. Now, what if it's not a good time to sell? So the only time you lose money in real estate is when you sell. So don't sell. Let's say it's a down market at the time. Doesn't matter. You're still going to have to sell at that time. The government's going to make you sell because you have a tax liability to pay. So you're going to have to dispose of those properties at that time. How can you avoid giving up 25% of that wealth that you're passing on to the next generation? And avoid's the wrong word. CRA doesn't like when you use the word avoid. So much there's not avoid. They're still going to get their money, but there's ways that you can structure your portfolio so that that burden won't be passed on to the family. And what you can do then is the family can continue to grow, and your next generations continue to grow and establish themselves with a portfolio, and then your family becomes prominent members of the community and can make larger and larger decisions because of the asset base that you grew them. So how is that done? Well, you can do things like whole life insurance. Successful investing means significant opportunities to grow your wealth. However, these gains are subject to tax when they pass from your hands to the next generation. Let's look at ways that corporate investors, multiple property investors, higher net worth investors can prepare for that eventuality and ready funds to pay CRA down the road. So what I want to do, and really what I'm covering today, is whether you start with one property and use that property and buy 2 or 3 and grow a portfolio, or if you want to go to the whole level and do the $20 million real estate portfolio and you want to protect yourself, and then you want to go into the whole life insurance side. This is how you go and protect the real estate portfolio. We really want to cover it to the mom and pop investor, to the corporate investor, or I shouldn't say to the larger investor today, so people fully understand how they can pass things on to the next generation, and really protect that generational wealth. That's literally our tagline in regards to building financial freedom and generational wealth. So how do you protect that generational wealth? Well, whole life insurance is part of that. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to bring on Stephen Maloney. He's my insurance expert, and he's going to tell you about whole life insurance because you will have questions and he will be able to answer them. So, Stephen, I'm just going to promote you to panelist now so people can see you and you can tell them how whole life insurance works. So you should be coming on now. I just promoted you to panelist. Okay, you're good to go, Stephen, if you want to talk. You just got to unmute yourself.
Can you see my screen? Probably not yet, right?
No. Oh, you want to share your screen?
Yes, please.
Okay. Let me make you co-host. Yes, and now you have the ability to share the screen. You should have this should be a share button at the bottom now.
You guys see my screen now?
Yeah. You're good.
Okay. Thank you, Alex, and hopefully everybody can hear me just fine.
And Stephen, it's still currently 1-0. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Alex, for the update on the baseball score. He knows my weaknesses. I'm going to talk to you today about whole life insurance and a concept around it called immediate financing arrangements. And these have essentially been established for the real estate investor out there. So this is a common strategy for people that are doing investments in property, business owners who are investing, expanding their business, and even having some of investment properties in their business, and for the high net worth marketplace. Anybody who's a successful investor is ultimately going to find themselves in the high net worth sphere. As Niesh can attest to, it can grow quite quickly, and when you have a successful portfolio. Okay. When we talk about permanent life insurance, it can be a great solution for paying estate taxes or funding business succession. But we're going to really focus in on that estate taxes. Like Alex was mentioning, we don't have true estate taxes in Canada. However, when somebody dies, it is considered by CRA that they've disposed of all of their assets in the year of their death. So essentially, that becomes a really big tax burden for the estate in the year that somebody passes away. Most successful business owners and affluent investors feel they can earn better returns than putting the money away in a life insurance policy, and they can build up their business or their investment portfolios. So even though they can cover off that future tax by utilizing an insurance policy, there's some hesitancy to do as such, because you know what? They want to keep investing that money in their real estate portfolio. And many business owners, investors also have needs for maintaining business operations, so it may prevent them from paying these high premiums for permanent life insurance. Because essentially, permanent life insurance is guaranteed insurance. So it's going to cover you for the entirety of your life. When you pass away, that money will be made available. And like Alex was talking about, you know what? You don't necessarily want somebody to be passing on their portfolio and have to pay those taxes. They don't want to necessarily have to sell off those assets, especially if those assets have been producing an income. What if that particular year is a dip year? Why are you selling low those properties? So you don't want to put your family in that situation. If they don't have the level of sophistication also to figure out how to get the best deal, you're going to have some challenges on that front. So we're talking about
Stephen, I think that's a great point. Remember, you're not going to be there anymore to assist them with the decision making, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's
and also you're assuming that everyone gets along.
Yeah, that's a whole nother subject of conversation. So what's available out in the marketplace for sophisticated investors is something called the immediate financing arrangement, and where it's individuals can purchase a participating life insurance policy without foregoing the opportunity to invest in their business or their portfolio. And this isn't something that is available to the average Canadian, because there are certain requirements around it with respect to having investments and having the portfolios to be able to build this and be able to support it. So this is definitely something that is specifically meant for investors, high net worth individuals, and business owners. So how do people do this? Well, with this strategy, they purchase a permanent participating life insurance policy. Essentially, they're looking for a policy that would pay out the amount of future capital gains that they would have to pay. So in Alex's situation, he was showing that he's probably looking at something like a $7 million capital gain. So it's a good idea to have a $7 million policy that pays out in the future. So that takes care of CRA. He keeps his investments intact, and they still continue to be producing income for his family. So that's the way he passes it along. Or if he wants most of that to be taken care of by the policy, maybe a little bit, he doesn't want to have to sell a huge, he doesn't want his estate to have to sell a huge chunk of it, that portfolio. So when you buy a permanent insurance policy, it actually has its own equity. So that equity is called cash surrender value. This cash surrender value, the policy can be used as collateral to borrow against the cash surrender value of the policy. So you're able then to say, not only am I buying a life insurance policy, but I'm going to actually pledge that insurance policy to be collateral so that I can get loans against that policy. Then you take the loans, the proceeds from those loans, and you can use it to continue to invest in your real estate properties. So that really does work well, because it's essentially you've got two purposes for the same dollar. You're putting $1 into the insurance policy, but you're getting $1 back out of the insurance policy that you can continue investing with. By doing this as well, the interest on the loan plus a portion of the premium that you're paying, the net cost of pure insurance, or the net cost may be deductible each tax year. So the only thing you have to do is on that loan, pay the interest on that loan every year, but you're able to do a couple of components of the loan. You're able to get tax deductions on. So you're really driving the net cost of that loan down as well. So as I said, you're able to do two things with the same dollar. To just give you a visualization of it, so you buy a life insurance policy, you collaterally assign it to a third-party lending institution. They give you that money right back so that you can make an investment with it. That life insurance policy, when you die, can repay the loan to the bank, and any excess then goes to either your beneficiary, or if you've done this corporately, to your corporation. So let's take a look at just a quick little case study. So we got Joe, who's a male non-smoker, age 45, and he's a real estate investor. He currently has 4 investment properties that have a combined monthly mortgage of $11,086. So you can see it's not a huge portfolio, but it's, a substantial portfolio, and it's got monthly mortgages of $11,000. His accountant projects at Joe's life expectancy that he'll have a tax hit of about $2.5 million on his $13 million portfolio down the road. So essentially a $10 million gain. Joe's accountant thinks he should buy a permanent life insurance to pay the tax when he dies. But you know what? Joe wants minimal impact to his cash flow, so he's kind of a little hesitant to pay those big premiums. So he looks at an immediate financing arrangement where he'll pay the annual interest on it. So he purchases a $1.25 million policy because he knows from the projections from his advisor that it's going to grow to essentially $2.5 million by the time he's 85. His annual deposit is $50,000, and the loan he gets back is $50,000. So his real cost on that front is essentially nothing. His policy has a dividend scale interest rate of 6.35%. So that means the cash value is growing every year. The loan interest he's paying is 6%, and I took 6% as being a projection over a long period of time. In the early years, it'll probably be a little higher than that, but we expect the interest rates to go down in the future. So we kind of look at a 6% overall, which is fairly conservative. The accumulated loan at 85, because he's paying off the interest, is $503,000. After he passes away, an amount of $2.58 million will pass through the corporation. Now, the interesting thing is, a corporately owned insurance policy is able to take advantage of something that's called the capital dividend account. And the capital dividend account allows for money to be passed from an insurance policy tax-free into the company, and the amount that's in excess of the adjusted cost basis of the insurance policy can be paid out as a capital dividend to any of the surviving shareholders. And that allows capital dividend gets paid out tax-free to those shareholders, so they don't even have to pay any tax on that portion of it. So in this situation, the net amount to the corporation was $2.5 million. The internal rate of return on that $2.58 million, so in case somebody wonders if they could just put money away and sock it away and do better than the life insurance policy, that's an internal rate of return after tax of 6.33%. So if you're at a 50% tax bracket, you probably have to be earning about 13% to have a better outcome than this. So now Joe is already investing over $11,000 per month in mortgage payments. So he can easily substantiate this $50,000 annual insurance deposit, because see, the bank and insurance companies are going to be looking, saying, hey, are you actually investing over $50,000 a year? Well, because he's got those $11,000 in mortgage payments, that's essentially his investment, even though it's an income producing property. So very simply, Holdco purchases a life insurance policy, diverts cash or investment dollars to pay the insurance premiums. Holdco obtains a bank loan to replace the funds used to pay the insurance premiums. The policy and possibly other assets are then assigned to bank as collateral for the loan. Holdco may obtain tax deductions as a result of using the loan for business or investment purposes and using the policy as collateral. So that really reduces those loan costs. And on death, the insurance death benefit pays off the bank loans. Any insurance premiums left over serve the estate's liquidity needs. And again, like I mentioned, that flows through the capital dividend account. So what are the benefits of using this kind of strategy? You'll benefit from the ability to shelter growth on corporate invested assets from tax inside the life insurance policy during your lifetime. So that money is growing, and that insurance is growing in a tax-sheltered environment. It also allows a corporately owned participating life insurance policy to be used as collateral for a tax-free loan that enables the corporation to reinvest into its business or other income-producing investments. And that's really the essence of the concept, which is your corporation is owning this policy, it's paying for those premiums, but they're getting a tax-free loan of the same amount of the premium right back to them. So they're able to utilize this for continuing their investments. As a business owner, you can also reduce passive income in your corporation by allowing assets to grow tax sheltered inside a permanent life insurance policy. So sometimes some business owners have situations where they're generating a little too much income and too much passive income, which is taxed at the highest rate. So they divert some of those assets into a life insurance policy because they don't actually have to pay income tax on an annual basis on that insurance growth. So can this work for you? Well, like I said, anybody who's from anywhere from a small to medium-sized investor, it can work for them. So healthy individuals with a stable financial situation with consistent cash flow and are comfortable with borrowing and the risks associated with it, it makes a lot of sense for them. This strategy can also work well for individuals as well as business owners. The minimum annual commitment towards one of these programs in the financial services industry is between $30,000 and $50,000. Some companies go as low as $30,000 annually, and that's $30,000 annually over a 10-year period. So about a $300,000 obligation, as you can see. So anybody who's got, is paying $5,000, $6,000 already in mortgages towards their investment portfolio, even though they're generating an income, are already substantiating, 60 to 70,000 right there. So 30,000 and 50,000 are the minimum. Generally speaking, you see these ranging anywhere from 100,000 all the way up to $1.52 million on an annual basis. And a shareholder of a successful business with a need for permanent life insurance, so any of those needs like key person, funding, buy, sells, but anybody just essentially looking to leave a tax-efficient legacy to their heirs or their favorite charities, the corporation will offer it significant annual surplus or have large retained earnings sitting in taxable investments. And this is a way that you can utilize this strategy as well. So as you can see, whether you're investing through your corporation, whether you're investing personally, there's a way to be able to take care of that estate passing seamlessly on to your next generation, buying permanent life insurance and significantly reducing the overall cost for it, because you're leveraging the equity already in that insurance policy over time. So it can really work well for individual investors. All right.
Yeah. And Stephen, who was, because the person has now passed away, who was the largest purchaser of whole life insurance in Canada?
The largest purchaser of whole life insurance Canada is a name that everybody would recognize in a heartbeat. The name is Ted Rogers. And Ted Rogers utilized significant life insurance policies. Every time he had positive cash flow in his business, he bought more and more whole life insurance so that he could have that ultimate flexibility of being able to not only leverage the insurance policies as collateral for investments that he would make, but the main thing was also when he passed on Rogers Corporation to his children, they were able to be in a position. He never wanted them to ever be in a position where they would have to sell their shares or lose control of the business after he passed away. So what he did was he had those significant policies that were then able to help them pay the capital gains, so they didn't have to relinquish any shares, and keep control within the company. Now, a little negative on that side is, I don't know if anybody can remember the squabbles that were going on between family members 2 years ago in the Rogers family. And that's all because they all have significant shareholdings and they were squabbling with each other, even though, and that's all because neither one of them had to sell off their shares in a distressed situation to be able to pay the tax man. The tax man was taken care of by the insurance policies.
Great. Can you just press escape? I think you have to escape, or just stop the share of your screen.
Okay. There we go.
Perfect. Great. Yeah. So I wanted people to see that. Now again, this won't apply to everyone. You know, it's not going to work for everyone, but this is what you can build up to, and that's really that next stage of like, okay, well, how do I pass this on to the next generation? And you know, and that's where I like to show my portfolio. And again, I'd have to give up 25% of my portfolio when I pass, I won't because I'm gone. My estate will have to give up 20% of my portfolio. So 25% of the wealth that I've generated over my lifetime has gone away. And now you can see after generation, if you don't have the right strategies in place, it's all going to get taxed away. It's all just going to get whittled down. But you can make these moves. And I like the Ted Rogers story again. That's massive, such a massive story. You know, one of the richest families in Canada, but he put that in place so that his family would maintain control of the empire, right? And this is what the wealthiest Canadians do to protect their wealth for themselves and then for future generations. And again, that's how you can build financial freedom for yourself today, and then the financial freedom for your family in the future. And anyone here can do this. You know, Niesh, again, did your family pass you real estate on? My family didn't pass me real estate on. But we can do that for our next generation if we choose to. Or again, if you want to do charity or something like that, it just gives you those options. So these are really the next stages to do that. Now, Stephen, do you have some time to stay on? Because I'm sure you've mind blown some people. I gave them no warning that was coming on, so we may get some questions on this.
The one thing I will mention is that within these structures, like I said, a lot of people don't realize that that their real estate portfolios are highly regarded by financial institutions. I know that, Alex, you're aware of that. That having a strong real estate portfolio is something that, you know, is part of a cornerstone of a good financial strategy. So when you're talking and you're looking at setting up these types of arrangements, depending on people's circumstance, there are people that pay down these loans early. There's people that, like I said, in my example, we're just paying the interest only. But there's also arrangements that you can make where you can do a concept called capitalizing the interest. And by capitalizing the interest, you actually have no net annual cost. You are literally building up your insurance. You have capitalized the loan, which means you're just building up the loan over time. You'll have a less amount that's paid out at the end, but you've had no cost to your cash flow during the time that the life insurance is in force. So there's a lot of different avenues and structures that can be had, and it all depends on the client and their situation.
Yeah. We could do, and maybe we'll do in the future, like we could do a whole webinar on this stuff. So it just gave everyone a taste today. So I'm going to open up the Q&A now. Oh, there we go. First question: how to pass on to the next generation in a tax efficient way? Well, we just covered that with the whole life policy. Okay, I love these questions about maintenance fees. Don't condos age negatively impact returns, like higher condo fees and more new condos added to supply? So I'll handle this in two parts. Maintenance fees don't, well, maintenance fees are determined by the property management and condo board, and the condo board is elected by owners in the building. And you have to own the building to be on the condo board, and they're owners in the building as well. So condo fees are not some evil entity that someone's profiting off of. They are determined by all the owners in the building. Now, when you're looking at condos, and I'll back it up. When I look at my portfolio, now I give my examples to make it as simple for people as possible. But will I own all those 30 properties in 30 years? Absolutely not. I will sell things, I'll buy other things, and I'll do things. But I just want to keep it in the simplest possible way to see if I own property and hold it over 30 years, it'll go up in value. Now, if condo fees start increasing in a building, you're going to know that, because you'll see what your annual increases are every year. And if you see fees creeping up in the building, you'll be able to sell out of the building way before they become unmanageable in a building. Now, I like to say this about condo fees, though. I like condo fees. And people are like, why do you like condo fees? Because I also own buildings and I also own houses. And when you look at the costs of a house and when you look at the cost of buildings, they work out to be the same thing as maintenance fees. The only difference is maintenance fees are nice package in a bow every month. I pay them every month. In a house or in a building, I just have large expenses that come out of nowhere that are unexpected. So it just, you're writing a check in a different way. Condos, I'm writing a check on a monthly basis. On a house, I'm writing a check, a big check once a year to do some major repair to the house. And what the other thing about condos is that they're just boxes in the sky. I only need to worry about what's inside the walls. So if you're building up a real estate portfolio, condos are very easy to manage because I'm only responsible for what's in the walls. So what not even in the walls, but just what's in between the walls, which is generally just the appliances in the unit. That's all you really got to worry about. But when I own a house, I'm responsible for what's inside the house, what's inside the walls, so that electrical and plumbing. I'm not responsible for that in a condo. I'm also responsible for the exterior of the property. I'm also responsible for the land the property's on. All these little things that I have to take care of. In a condo, there's a whole building management system that deals with that. So when you get into owning freehold properties, there's much more active management of the property, where you have condos, there isn't much active management. And a lot of our investors they don't have time to be dealing with a house. And I always say this in our presentations when we get that come up. I'm like, houses are a pain in the ass, and anyone that lives in a house will agree that their house is a pain in the ass. And now imagine owning multiple houses, and now you have multiple pains in the ass of a house. Do you have time to deal with that? And the answer most people are going to be no. And you can make money in real estate many, 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 many different ways, owning many, many, many different asset types. It just depends on how you want to spend your time and what you have the time to do. Now, in regards to, am I worried about added condo supply? No, because we're in the business of providing roofs over heads. And if population growth is increasing, then condos are going to be able to, the condos are what are people going to buy. On top of that, what can people afford, right? So condos are the affordable option for that first time buyer. That first time buyer can't just run out and go buy a house. It's too expensive. That's what the affordable option is. And they want to live in condos because, again, we just said houses are difficult to maintain. When you're in your 20s, do you really want to maintain a house? No, you don't want to maintain a house. My wife and I left our condo. Hey, wait, why am I talking about this? Niesh, you live in a condo. Do you love your condo? You raise your family
I do, and
in a condo.
Absolutely. And it's simple, right? And to your point, you do have costs that just come out of nowhere, and they could be a $20,000 check that you have to write. Whereas the condo fees are managed, and they also go towards other amenities that you can appreciate. And then when you talk about a tenant, now you have other amenities that your tenants can also appreciate, which can then increase the rental revenue that you get from a condo.
Niesh, where did your son learn how to swim?
In our condo, we have a nice big pool. Yeah.
Yeah, you brought an instructor in, and he learned how to swim in the building. And you're in an older building too.
Yeah.
You're what,
15
years old or 20 years old?
2007. So we're coming up on 16, 17 years.
And your maintenance fees are manageable?
Yeah, 100%. Really well. Good corporation. They have a vested interest in ensuring that, as owners who make up the board, also make up the rest of the decision makers, they're not going to want to inflate the price. It's just coming out of their pockets as well, because you're paying $1 per square foot based on your size. So there's no reason for them to try to increase the the condo fees. They're not winning, not getting anything.
No. Great next question. Do you see a significant housing correction coming? Depends. Depends on the market. Depends on the area. And you can go back to videos, and I said in certain markets, I said these prices went up way too much. So when during COVID, so if you look at your second and third tier areas like your Windsors and your Londons and those areas, yeah, I see prices issues there. I also expect pricing to come down in Toronto condos downtown. And the reason for that, we're probably looking at a potential of 5 to 10% decrease in condo prices downtown Toronto over the next 12 months. Because what's happening is that renewals are coming up from landlords, and their interest costs are doubling. And now their rents are no longer covering their expenses, and they're looking to sell properties. So expect some downward pressure on pricing in the condo market as well. Now, but this is also why I look at things over a 30-year period. I don't look at them year over year, because when things go down, they will go back up. So I like to look at things over a 30-year period. So I'd say there's a good buying opportunity in I'd say downtown Toronto and condos that is coming up this winter. I'd say you'd have a good buying opportunity. I knew this question was coming up. Stephen, if you know more about this, can creating trust and beneficiaries route be useful, or is that question out of your purview, Stephen?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, there could be some benefit, but there are a lot of things that around trusts that you have to be careful of, because there's a lot of fees associated with trusts that people try not they don't take into account. And there's also some taxation rules around wrapping up trusts after certain periods of time. Generally speaking, if you can accomplish things through an insurance policy, it's probably the most direct way of doing it, and leaving the asset with the most amount of control with the estate. But it's not out of the realm of possibility to look at those as well.
But I would say setting up the insurance is easier.
Much easier.
Way less moving parts.
And you don't have the ongoing fees set up.
What kind of rates are the loans on they're what prime plus what?
They are generally speaking prime plus 1.5. I've seen them go as low as prime. And generally using this concept, the interest rates that you have in the early years are less significant than the higher interest rates in the later years, because your loans are the smallest in the early years, plus the fact that even what helps offset the loans is the fact also that you get the tax write-offs on it, depending on your tax bracket, and the collateral insurance deduction. So if you, let's say, for example, you have a 5% interest rate, and then it goes up to a 7% interest rate, well, your net interest rate that you were impacted with is probably somewhere, when it's 5%, is probably somewhere around, I don't know, let's say 2.6. And then when you go to 7, it's probably somewhere around 3.6. So essentially, you're always just getting dinged with half. And like I said, the loans are highest in the early years. So you actually have, or sorry, your loans are highest in the later years. So you're actually more concerned with what the rates are going to be in years 3 to 10 than you are in the first initial years.
Oh, that's great, because rates will be lower in the next 3 to 10 years. So that's perfect.
Because it's the whole concept, because remember, you're only paying the interest on the loan, and you're accumulating more loan, because as you're paying a premium, you're accumulating more loans. So that's why it's more important what the future interest rates are as opposed to what the interest rates are today. So it's your projection. If you think interest rates are going to go down, this really it becomes even more of an attractive concept.
Sally has a good question here. Is it a good idea to buy a condo in daughter's name to avoid capital gain? What happens when you can't trust your daughter anymore? She just got married. There are things that you can do on that, in that if you are putting yourself as an owner on it, doing promissory notes, those kind of things, to protect the investment, also prenup, those kind of stuff. But I'd say talk to your lawyer about setting that stuff up. You need to have the lawyer set that stuff up to protect that asset. And that is a great question. And I've come across that because I'll have parents go, hey, I want to help my kid out and buy a condo. But my concern is, what if they marry someone and it doesn't work out in 5 years, that person takes half of the money that I gave my kid. That's the biggest concern. But there are things you can do to protect that money, but talk to your lawyer to get those things set up. Alex, is there a limit on the number of mortgages an individual investor can hold at any given time? Is it based on salary or income in the eyes of the bank? I know there's no limit. You can have as many as you want. Okay, I'll back it up. As many as the bank will give you. But no, there's no limit on how many you can have. For example, National Bank will do 40 right now themselves on if they deem the assets worthwhile and income levels and everything like that. Stephen, is the approach limited to corporations, or can individuals with multiple properties, mortgage payments, 30K take advantage of this approach? Yeah, I think individual investor, you don't need a corporate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, if you're interested in the insurance and the whole life, this is all being recorded. You're all going to get a copy of this video. But reply to an email, or Stephen, in the summary email, do you want me to put your contact details, or do you want people to reach out to me and then introduce you to you?
Reach out to you.
Okay. Then... Yeah. So reply to me, and then I'll make an introduction directly to Stephen, and he can answer any more questions and direct you in the right direction for this. What is the minimum age for a person to be entitled for a property? 18 years old. So that. And if there's no more questions,
Alex, we had one more, just a bit up. Scroll up. It's about buying a new condo and holding.
Oh yeah, well, yes, gotta add that. Yes. Oh, thank you. Yes, I love that question. Yes, hold. Yes, thank you, Niesh, pointing that out. Oh yes, hold, and hold some more. Reasons being, few reasons. First reason being that is that if I sell it on assignment, let's say for example, because if you're selling on an assignment, then you're going to have to sell it at a discount and a significant discount to get an investor to buy it, because an investor wants to see some sort of return. So if you're selling an assignment, you got to sell it at a discount to current market value. Number two is that taxes. So if you sell an assignment, or if you sell it within the first year of closing on the property, you are no longer eligible for capital gains. What does that mean? That means that instead of taking just taking 50% of the profit in income, you have to take 100% of the profit. So you need to hold a property for 1 year from closing, in order to be eligible for the capital gain exemption of 50%. So if you don't hold it for 1 year, you have to take 100% of that income into 100% of that profit into your income. So you're going to pay twice as much tax unless if you waited for a year. Also, going back on that is that by it being around for a year, usually you'll see properties go up in value even more. So you'll see appreciation on the property as well. On top of that, again, if we go back to the assignment, there's also HST on the profit portion as well, if you were to sell it on that. But we're seeing assignments sell for at a loss now. People are giving up parts of their deposit to assign out their contracts. So buy, hold, and that's why we always start every presentation showing the whole portfolio, what it's going to be worth in 30 years. Because if you sell it now, you can't have that. You can't get to where you want to be in 30 years. It just doesn't work. You can make a tremendous amount of money in real estate and build tremendous wealth by applying time and real estate together. But if you don't do that, you can make a little bit of money, or you could even lose money in real estate. So always set yourself up to buy and hold real estate. That will make you wealthy. Can you be a co-signer and still open a first-time savings account? I don't know. I'd say reach out to your mortgage broker and ask that question on that. Otherwise, you guys have given me myself, Stephen, and Niesh, you've given us over an hour of your time. We really appreciate everyone coming on. We love having these chats and educating everyone. As I said, this has been recorded. If you do have any questions where you should be investing or what's a great opportunity, possible to find positive cash flow investments in GTA? Yeah, if you put 50% down. Yeah, you're not going to find positive cash flow without putting 50% down anymore in Toronto. And that's why we also have been selling Calgary. And anyone's been on here, we can still get you cash flow positive at 20% down in Calgary. I can't get it in the GTA. Doesn't mean I'm not GTA. I still think has growth on the appreciation. but it's more of a wealthier person's game. You have to put more money down in order to make those assets cash flow positive. And I'll probably have a webinar coming up just talking about how to take advantage of or how to capitalize on the opportunity that I see coming in the Toronto real estate market. But again, it still won't be 20% down to be cash flow positive. Those days are gone, even with our elevated rents. So again, this will be recorded. You have questions, please reach out. You'll all get my email. You'll be able to book calls. And we love educating you guys and allowing you to build financial freedom, pass on. We did the pass on generational wealth. And we want to maximize your wealth and minimize your stress. So Stephen, thank you for coming on. Niesh, thank you for spending time. And we will talk everyone soon. Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone. Have a good night.